What's up, everybody? Everybody got me? All right. Well, obviously, since we got together on Saturday post game to where we are today, gave our players a couple of days off by NCAA rules, just on the bye week, and to have 2 bye weeks, as well as when we start camp with week 0, we had to make some concessions on how much we could work during the bye week. So really, we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday available this week. The same thing when we're in bye week 2. So today was the first chance we'd had to be with them about Wisconsin. We reviewed the film early this morning. Offense, defense, special teams, went through the critical plays, the teaching moments there. Obviously, put that to bed earlier this morning, and then went out on the field and was able to get a good work day for our 2 deep, as well as excuse them, and they went in, they got some work with Tank and his crew, and then we had a developmental practice for about 40 minutes, which was really our non-travel crew, as well as the guys that kind of haven't gotten a lot of reps in the games that we played in so far. So from a health standpoint, I do believe we'll have Seth Coleman back with us when we return to play against Penn State. Brandon Peters is probably will be limited, but this week, but should be back with us again next week as it lays out in front of us. And then Jake Hansen's still going through some tests. Hopefully, we'll be able to give you some information here sooner than later, today or tomorrow. And then Deuce Spann, unfortunately, tweaked his hamstring last week during practice. Wasn't with us all week, and then looks to be out probably the remainder of this week and possibly next week with a soft tissue injury. So that's really where we're at from an injury standpoint. Thought our guys came out and competed today. Tomorrow will be a little bit of a combination of working on fundamentals and getting better as a football player, and introduction into Penn State, as well as some upcoming opponents. And then we'll do much of the same on Thursday. Bye weeks are a little bit different than normal weeks. During a normal game week, we don't spend a lot of time, or we haven't had coaches out on the road recruiting, but I was out the last couple of days with a couple of coaches. We'll go out towards the end of this week as well to go out and do recruiting for 22, 23, 24, and beyond. So that's kind of a little bit different for us in a bye week versus a game week. But other than that, I'll open up for questions.
Coach, as you mentioned, it's an opportunity to get out on the road and recruit as much as you can. Could you delve a little bit into what the strategy there is, what the game plan is, and what your coaches are going to be selling to the high school kids?
Well, just strategy wise, so you're allowed 68 evaluation days during the fall by NCAA rules. So those days are used strictly just for academic and obviously physical evaluations. You can watch a practice, you can watch a game. It can be just an academic evaluation. The last I was in 4 different states yesterday for me as a head coach. I was with Coach Miller, and we were at Bart Miller. We were spent basically a 36-hour window focusing on mainly offensive line. But then I kept all my coaches back in the office here so that they could do a little bit of self-scout on what we've done and where we're at. They'll be on the road for the majority of all my coaches, at least most of my coaches, other than the 2 coordinators, Ryan and Tony will help me run practice on Thursday. But for the most part, all of our coaches will be out basically in the state and across the country, getting in position Wednesday night. We might do a few evaluation Wednesday practices, but Thursday and Friday, I want to give them a full 48-hour window to get in as many evaluations, academic and athletic evaluations. And then there'll be a limited number of us on Saturday that will be out and about. I'll be out Saturday as well, get back late Saturday night before we jump into Penn State eval for Sunday.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Hey, Coach. What I want to ask you is how do you look at when it comes to like Kirby's development? I know everyone talks about his play, but how have you seen him change personality-wise, maybe, or just mature? I know that everyone says he's like, kind of wired, he's lively, but I'd imagine it has to be like some controlled chaos there, maybe, if that makes sense.
You said Kirby, James?
Yeah, Kirby
Joseph.
Yes.
Just been very impressed with him Yeah, he's a live wire, but he's a great communicator. Gets a little bit shy. I put him on the radio show last week for a reason. I want him to become more comfortable, in front of people and answering questions. I think I'm sure you guys see it, especially in media, right? Like, kids can handle moments like that. Other kids can't. I think there is a direct relationship between how they handle pressure moments and how they handle like media moments, right? So I think that's all kind of tied together at certain points. I think Kirby's play physically has increased because he's become more confident. Hey, I think he's getting told a lot of really good things. I think Ryan's done a really good job with him, coaching up specifics, but they're putting him in a position, and you've just seen him literally grow every game, make plays in one game that he didn't a week before, and it's just continued to move forward. And good news is, obviously, he's a good player now, but he keeps getting better every week.
Brett, I had two questions. One, how do you handle your quarterback position this week during the bye week? And then the other was, you've mentioned on offensive line, you've mentioned Josh Kreutz and Zach Barlev as two kids that have, taken steps in their development. I know offensive line is a developmental position, and younger kids need more time. But are those two kids that you feel like you might be able to take a look at before their four-game redshirt window exits?
Yeah. So first question, quarterback, reps this week. Really excited to be able to obviously work with BP and Art on the things that they have done well and the things they need to do better as we move forward. But then to have some of our developmental guys, Samari got a lot of reps today. A guy that I think as we entered this bye week, we had set up basically the first 7 games. We had made a decision on a group of freshmen that we felt good about trying to get into a 4-game window, based on the NCAA rule to do that. There was another group of guys that we were kind of excited to see where they would grow during that 7 weeks. And then we would get into this bye week, which we're in right now, and kind of make a decision if we wanted to move forward. Barlev, has been on the cusp. A couple of the DBs, couple semi-skilled players, Dylan Rosiak, like guys that we're really making a decision this week if we want to try to work them into this next 3-week window. We knew that in the later part of the season, we would run into more injury issues and need more depth. So that's kind of how we strategize that. In particular, Kreutz, he's already played, even though it was at the tight end position and an extra heavy set. He did play, get in the game. And Barlev has really been on the cusp, really a couple different games that if a game had gone a certain way, you get in and get reps, but just haven't been to that point yet. But I do think he'll probably be closer now than ever before.
Thanks, Brett. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Coach, I kind of wanted to also ask about the quarterbacks. I asked Tony Peterson about his philosophy on a 2-quarterback system. I don't know yours. Can you share what your opinion is on that?
Yeah, never really experienced it. I think 2 quarterbacks, you mean like 2 quarterbacks playing in the same game?
Yeah, so like using both Art and Brandon, if that's what it kind of came to.
Yeah,
not necessarily in the same play, but what I mean.
No, I think in the system that we've guided to and what we've recruited to, or how we're trying to build for the future, that's not never say never. It's just not a path we would go down. Yeah, I think anytime. Well, opener. The only reason we've used 2 quarterbacks in a game is because of injury, right? So in the Nebraska game, BP got knocked out. Art came in. Art was the quarterback all the way up until we inserted BP back in the lineup, and then BP was in the lineup all the way until this past weekend when he got knocked out and Art came in.
And then I kind of wanted to ask, and sorry if this is stepping on any NCAA toes, but you tweeted yesterday a picture of a bunch of what looked like military helicopters. Where were you at, and like what was that experience like? I don't really know where you were at, so.
Yeah, I think I was actually in Garden City at that point. But what was interesting is I got out. When we were in 4 different states in one day, and you just get out and you see different things. We flew into another place that was looked like it was an airplane burial ground. There was like 40 or 50 airplanes that were just gutted out, sitting by the runways. Kind of an unusual sight you see. So the next stop was Garden City. There we saw the military hop. I actually took a picture of it to send to Luke Ford, just because I knew Luke enjoyed that aspect of it because of his father's history. I also it was early morning and I hadn't talked to my daughter yet, and she's infatuated by helicopters. So I actually took a FaceTime with her and sent her a picture of that. She was convinced I was getting on it. I assured her I was not, but it's just one of those things you kind of get across. In recruiting, you know, sometimes you don't mind people knowing where you're at, but on the same time, a lot of times you don't want to tell people where you are at, right? So there's a little bit of both.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Hey, Brett, as you guys as the coaching staff make these decisions on which freshmen or players that could be within those 4 games to gravitate towards, I know you talked a lot about it with Josh when you guys made the decision to go to him, but how do you know when the time is right?
You know, it's little things with each guy, Joey, really, to be quite honest. Just like you guys get to know the players in the media, as coaches, we get to know them. And, you know, sometimes you can tell by their body language, they just feel really confident, feel really good. And you see them do things repeatedly during practice. So you're like, okay, this might become game day reality. You know, there could be, there's been, I know earlier in the year, we were going to play PB in a game, Pat Bryant in a game, and he broke a formation wrong and lined up incorrectly on a Thursday, and Coach McDonald removed him from the plan that week because of that, right? So I think a lot of it, I as a head coach got to feel comfortable, but then a lot of times it does the assistant coach feel like he knows the game plan well enough to be asserted right in the middle of the biggest moment. So it's kind of case by case, and also, you know, for a lot of these guys, like I obviously, you know, the first guy I inserted in the lineup was Josh, right? But I had hand recruited him myself, so I knew a lot about him, right? I knew a lot about. There was 13 of these guys that I'd never met before, right? Like I didn't know them until majority of them came on campus here in the summer, and then in the summer I can't be around them by NCAA rules very much. So it was really just kind of getting used to guys and knowing who they are. I think as we move forward, part of this process is we're just going to know our roster a lot better because we're going to recruit them and we're going to be in their homes. One of the things that the NCAA does allow us to do is, as I'm going out on the road now in recruiting, I can actually go and visit the homes of kids of our current roster, right? So this week I'm going to work my way south a little bit. So I'm going to try to see a few kids' parents of kids that are on our roster now that I've never met before, or I haven't been in their home. I just think as a head coach, it really helps me understand young men and what they go through if I know their families and I know their homes a little bit better. So it's kind of a double dip and duty of getting as much exposure as I can to not only our recruiting roster, but our current roster as well.
And at the risk of a couple of people behind me getting mad, can you maybe assess where the 3 phases of your team are at right now into this open week here?
Offense, defense, special teams?
Yeah.
Well, you know, obviously special teams, we thought coming into the season, just because of, you know, who we have, our 2 specialists, our kicker and our punter, exceptional players, probably be very fortunate if I ever have this kind of talent again, both of them at the same time, just very, very immature as they are, right? You might get a kicker and a punter who are equally as good, but just on different ends of their age or spectrum. So I thought special teams has been something that we've been able to lean on heavily. And they've been able to perform for the most part very, very well, as well as a 4 core group. You know, Kirby Joseph, case in point, was a guy that kind of started off as a special teams player for us, played himself into a role and done really well. This past weekend, Eddie Smith jumped out off the charts as a special teams player and did that. Defensively, there's no doubt in my mind since the Virginia game to where we are today, they've continued to make steps forward. Obviously, Saturday we gave up some rushing numbers. Part of that is obviously what we did, but also Wisconsin had a huge effect on that by what they were able to execute and get out there and perform and do. But I do like the way the defense has evolved to the players' strengths. I like the way the coaches communicate. I think Ryan's got a good pulse on the strengths and the weaknesses of the program and where we're going. And then on the offensive side, you know, Tony has had multiple, 2 different players or 2 different people to, jump into the starting quarterback position. I think that in itself, I would say our top 3 quarterbacks beyond BP from last spring, which were Deuce, Isaiah and Karan Taylor, are now playing other positions. So we literally decimated that quarterback room. brought in Art, brought in RJ. Matt Robinson is obviously still there, brought in Samari Collier. So really, you know, in the infancy of this program, I knew that the quarterback position was going to be a one of high interest, and obviously you have a huge effect, but also one of my biggest concerns, just because we were dealing with a lot of unknowns there. Offensively, the people around it then, right? The quarterback is greatly affected by the people that are around them. So now you have, you know, arguably two of our best wide receiver prospects. We're playing quarterback in the spring, and haven't had a lot of time there. Casey Washington, you know, who's probably our next best or one of our best wide receiver options, wasn't even with us. Didn't even know if he was going to be eligible until 2 weeks before the fall camp. You know, a tight end position in particular, Luke and DJ have made a lot of progress since we've gotten here. I think two guys that can be key factors in our offense as we continue to go forward. But I think just the basic execution offensively, from being execute the run game, block it, protect it, and run it, and then in the passing game to be able to protect it, block it, and make the decisions and make the throws and the catches have been something that we got to continue to improve.
Thank you, Bret.
Yep.
Hey, Brett, we saw Brandon, move back into that QB1 spot, when he came back from his first injury. Is it a similar procedure this time around?
Yeah, it's kind of a to be determined. The reason we did that is obviously for us as coaches to make the decision what gave us the best chance to have success that game that weekend. Obviously, Art came in and did some good things on Saturday, but when we get to the decision of who we're going to play or who we're going to start against, Penn State probably won't make that decision until we get closer to Tuesday preparation. We'll do some Penn State preparation this week, but it's more about getting our team better where we're at right now, and then we'll make the decision on who's going to start against Penn State probably that Tuesday, so that the players know going into the preparation on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get ready for Saturday.
Okay. Then sort of on the recruiting front, just have the last 7 weeks, as maybe you've gotten to know what this team is, affected maybe how you're looking to recruit in the 22, 3, 24 classes?
Well, we had a pretty significant group of committed kids before we started fall camp, right? Like based on what we knew we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it in state as we go forward. They passed new NCAA legislation last week that it gives us the opportunity to sign 7 more additional transfer players other than high school players, which is uncharted water. That's never been done before. It's something I was kind of banking on. I didn't know what the number was going to end at, but they give us 7 extra. So now you can actually bring 32 new people into the program, which for us as a program that, we wouldn't have been able to get to 85 scholarship players if that rule hadn't passed. So it's a tremendous advantage for us. But those 7 transfer players that can come in, whether they're from junior college, whether they're from the transfer portal or grad transfers, is kind of a work in progress. And then for us, we have a large number of super seniors that have to move on. They're done with their eligibility. But then there's another group of seniors that have a COVID year of eligibility left if they want to, if they factor into our plans here, but also some guys that maybe, haven't used all 4 games and that they can still have a redshirt year available is something that we still have to explore with a certain number of our guys on the roster that we currently have. So we had a big personnel meeting on Sunday. I had a lot of conversations Sunday and Monday when I was on the road. We'll have another big one this afternoon. That'll kind of give us a lay of the land. But really, after these next 3 games, when we go into that second bye week, we have to have a pretty good understanding of who's coming back and who's going to be moving on. But then there's the X factor of guys maybe that may leave the program that we don't know or don't think about right now, or potentially guys that could declare themselves for, the NFL draft that we aren't thinking that's their thought process right now. So the roster is a constant evolution. You have a baseline of what we're doing, but yeah, there's a work in progress every day from a recruiting standpoint on pure roster numbers.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brett, it says Andy, but it's Brett. Every player last year you said you welcomed back. Do you foresee doing that again?
Brett and I thought you'd go through a formational change there, like another name. I do. Last year, because of COVID, it presented a very unique opportunity for a coach to come in who didn't know his roster and invite everybody back, right? I just felt that was something that was important for us to try to maximize where we were. All those super seniors were going to be counted as pure bonuses, but that can't be the case moving forward. The NCAA has not allowed us to do that. What they've done is they've give everybody a COVID bonus year, but they didn't give the institutions or the programs the ability to maintain that. It's kind of, for lack of a better term, they've made a promise that they can't cash, right? Like, so it's frustrating, but they appease the seven roster limit to go bigger numbers, but it doesn't change the fact that by a certain date, we got to be back down to 85 scholarship players, which is a tremendous challenge.
And then one other thing, when you reflect back to 2013 and when you were at Arkansas, are there things you're remembering that you did then to set yourself up for success in 2014 as you try to turn around the program, or is that in the past? You reflect on those things at all?
No, it's a great point. I think not only 2013, but, specifically in this conference, I was part of a transition when Hayden stepped down. We weren't really on the cusp of Iowa football at that time. When Hayden stepped down and Kirk came in that first year with Kirk, we went 1-11. The next year, I believe we won 3 games, and the next year we won 7. And then obviously they're in a position right now in college football that's pretty high level stuff. So like you use that. And then, when I transitioned to Kansas State, I was part of a transition with Coach Snyder that basically the whole defensive staff was new. So it wasn't a total program transition, but a lot of it. And then when I went to Wisconsin, to transition from being a defensive coordinator to becoming a head coach and to change the roster, I changed basically the entire coaching staff. All of those years where there's transition, I use that quite a bit. Arkansas was a very unique situation. I do remember we didn't win a conference game, and then we beat 2 straight ranked teams back-to-back weeks. I believe we shut them out too, but like you could see it coming. My first year lost to a team by a pretty significant number, lopsided score, and the next year came back and had a chance. We lost them by 1 point, but it told me we were going in the right direction. A lot of close games that eventually, when that tide turned, it happened in a big way.
Do you feel that happening here? Like, how do you see those translating? You're playing close games, or is that similar to?
Well, I'm not so much into the score as more of what I see, right? Like I see our guys, even today, like with a practice, have some visitors at practice. People that know and understand football, like you just see things begin to happen, and you can feel they're coming. It's much to what I felt when I was a younger coach, when I was at Iowa, and the 1-11 year wasn't great, obviously, and then to win 3, but we kept getting in the ballpark, and then to have a 500 year, and then to break free the next year and qualify for the Orange Bowl. Like you just, it doesn't happen overnight. And then a lot of times it can be a key player, right? A key player that stays healthy, or you recruit, or a player that it hadn't been in the decision process for maybe a part of the season or an entire season. You add a new player in at a critical position that plays well. That's literally how things change overnight.
Andy, thank you.
Yep.